Before the Fellowship was the greatest story you've never heard. I'm Dan.
I'm Greg.
I'm Cameron.
Join us as we read and react to the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. Last time we read about the first coming of mankind, the second children of Iluvatar, into Arda at the rising of the first sun. They stayed far from the Valar, but they befriended the elves and quickly spread across Middle-earth. Today, we begin chapter 13 of the Quenta Silmarillion, which can be found on page 106 of the second edition. Of the return of the Noldor. It has been told that Fëanor and his sons came first of the exiles to Middle-earth and landed in the waste of Lamoth, the great echo, upon the outer shores of the Firth of Drengist. And even as the Noldor set foot upon the strand, their cries were taken up into the hills and multiplied, so that a clamor as of countless mighty voices filled all the coast of the north, and the noise of the burning ships at Losgar went down the winds of the sea as a tumult of great wrath. And far away, all who heard that sound were filled with wonder. Now the flames of that burning were seen not only by Fingolfin, whom Fëanor had deserted in Ahriman, but also by the Orcs and the Watchers of Morgoth. No tale has told what Morgoth thought in his heart at the tidings that Fëanor, his bitterest foe, had brought a host out of the west. It may be that he feared him little, for he had as yet no proof of the swords of the Noldor, and soon it was seen that he purposed to drive them back into the sea. Under the cold stars, before the rising of the moon, the host of Fëanor went up the long firth of Drengist that pierced the echoing hills of Ered Lomin, and passed thus from the shores into the great land of Hithlum, and they came at last to the long lake of Mithrim, and upon its northern shore made their encampment in the region that bore the same name. But the host of Morgoth, aroused by the tumult of Lamoth and the light of the burning at Losgar, came through the passes of Ered Wetherin, the mountains of shadow, and assailed Fëanor on a sudden, before his camp was full wrought or put in defense, and there on the grey fields of Mithrim was fought the second battle in the wars of Beleriand. Dagon Nuin Gileath it is named, the battle under the stars, for the moon had not yet risen, and it is renowned in song. The Noldor, outnumbered and taken at unawares, were yet swiftly victorious, for the light of Aman was not yet dimmed in their eyes, and they were strong and swift and deadly in anger, and their swords were long and terrible. The Orcs fled before them, and they were driven forth from Mithrim with great slaughter, and hunted over the mountains of shadow into the great plain of Ardgallan that laid northward of Doroth Nonen. The armies of Morgoth that had passed south into the Vale of Sirion and beleaguered Círdan in the havens of the Falas came up to their aid and were caught in their ruin. For Cilorgorm, Fëanor's son, having news of them, waylaid them with a part of the elven host, and coming down upon them out of the hills near Ethel Sirion, drove them into the fen of Serech. Evil indeed were the tidings that came at last to Angband, and Morgoth was dismayed. 10 days that battle lasted, and from it returned all of the hosts that he had prepared for the conquest of Beleriand, no more than a handful of leaves. Yet cause he had for great joy, though it was hidden from him for a while. For Fëanor, in his wrath against the enemy, would not halt, but pressed on behind the remnants of Orcs, thinking so to come at Morgoth himself. And he laughed aloud as he wielded his sword, rejoicing that he had dared the wrath of the Valar and the evils of the road, that he might see the hour of his vengeance. Nothing did he know of Angband, or the great strength of defense that Morgoth had so swiftly prepared. But even had he known it, it would not have deterred him, for he was fey, consumed by the flame of his own wrath. Thus it was that he drew far ahead of the van of his host, and seeing the servants of Morgoth, turned to bay, and there issued from Angband Balrogs to aid them. There upon the confines of Dor-Daeloth, the land of Morgoth, Fëanor was surrounded with few friends about him. Long he fought on, and undismayed, though he was wrapped in fire and wounded with many wounds. But at last he was smitten to the ground by Gothmog, lord of the Balrogs, whom Ecthelion after slew in Gondolin. There he would have perished, had not his sons in that moment come up with a force to his aid, and the Balrogs left him and departed to Angband. Then his sons raised up their father and bore him back towards Mithrim. But as they drew near to Eithel Sirion and were upon the upward path to the pass of the mountains, Fëanor bade them halt, for his wounds were mortal, and he knew that his hour had come. And looking out from the slopes of Ered Wethrin with his last sight, he beheld far off the peaks of Thangorodrim, mightiest of the towers of Middle-earth, and knew with the foreknowledge of death that no power of the Noldor would ever overthrow him. But he cursed the name of Morgoth thrice, and laid upon his sons to hold their oath and to avenge their father. Then he died. But he had neither burial nor tomb, for so fiery was his spirit that as it sped, his body fell to ash and was borne away like smoke, and his likeness has never again appeared in Arda, neither has his spirit left the halls of Mandos. Thus ended the mightiest of the Noldor, whose deeds came both their greatest renown and their most grievous woe. Now in Mithrim there dwelt grey elves, folk of Beleriand, that had wandered north over the mountains, and the Noldor met them with gladness, as kinsfolk long sundered. But speech at first was not easy between them, for in their long severance the tongues of the Calaquendi in Valinor and of the Moraquendi in Beleriand had drawn far apart. From the elves of Mithrim, the Noldor learned of the power of Elu-Thingol, king of Doriath, and the girdle of enchantment that fenced his realm. And tidings of these great deeds in the north came south to Menegroth, and to the havens of Brithomba and Eglarest. Then all the elves of Beleriand were filled with wonder and with hope at the coming of their mighty kindred, who thus returned unlooked for from the west in the very hour of their need, believing indeed at first that they came as emissaries of the Valar to deliver them. But even in the hour of death of Fëanor, an assembly came to his sons from Morgoth, acknowledging defeat and offering terms, even to the surrender of a Silmaril. Then Maethros the Tall, the eldest son, persuaded his brothers to feign to retreat with Morgoth and meet his emissaries at the place appointed. But the Noldor had as little thought of faith as he. Wherefore, each embassy came with greater force than was agreed. But Morgoth sent the more, and there were Balrogs. Maethros was ambushed, and all his company was slain, but he himself was taken alive by the command of Morgoth and brought to Angband. Then the brothers of Maethros drew back and fortified a great camp in Hithlum, but Morgoth held Maethros hostage and sent word that he would not release him unless the Noldor would forsake their war, returning into the west, or else departing far from Beleriand into the south of the world. But the sons of Fëanor knew that Morgoth would betray them and would not release Mithras whatsoever they might do. And they were constrained also by their oath, and might not for any cause forsake the war against their enemy. Therefore Morgoth took Mithras and hung him from the face of a precipice upon Thangorodim, and he caught to the rock by the wrist of his right hand in a band of steel. All right, let's get a little summary there of what we just heard. Pretty action-packed.
Mm-hmm.
The story returns to Fëanor and his host, who, having burned their ships, marched to the land of Hithlum, a region northwest of Beleriand. There, they built an encampment on the north shore of the Lake of Mithrim. Aroused by the clamor of Fëanor's arrival, Morgoth sends his armies to attack the Noldor. Although the Noldor are greatly outnumbered, they succeed in driving back the attacking Orcs. Fëanor pursues the retreating forces, hoping to find Morgoth himself. As he presses forward, he is surrounded by Morgoth's forces and is mortally wounded by Gothmog, the lord of the Balrogs. Morgoth ambushes the Noldor and captures Mithras, Fëanor's son. Morgoth hangs Mithras by the wrist from a cliff face of Thangorodrim and the mighty peaks of the Iron Mountains above Angband. This is really cool, this reading. I love it. I love the action. I love the fact that someone was hung from a cliff. It's really dark, but it's cool.
Yeah. What do you think, Cameron?
I would say that is quite the cliffhanger.
Dan, you say that same joke and we'll see if it's as funny as when Cameron says it.
I practiced it earlier, so obviously mine's gonna be better because I practiced it before.
Try it, Dan.
If you like what you hear, go ahead and rate us.
If you like that joke. Yeah, I love this reading too. I obviously am sad that Fëanor met his end. The way it describes his death is so... Well, before we get to his death, like the fact that he races into Angband or towards Angband without knowing like the depths that Morgoth has dug and the amount of his enemies. But even if he knew, like that wouldn't deter him because of his
pride,
his anger, and his fiery spirit.
Yeah, his desire for vengeance.
So we've talked a lot about Fëanor, and like we've talked about how the Silmarils corrupted him. And then we talked about how the similarities of the Silmarils and the Rings of Power, which Greg disagrees with, but I fundamentally agree with for this reason. And this is the quote that's going to prove it. Power tends to corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so
but it's not even
these things are beautiful, even though they are good and true and beautiful, the lure of them corrupted Fëanor.
Okay, I agree with that the allure of them corrupted him, but the Silmarils weren't made for an evil purpose.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they were. That's you're misunderstanding me. I'm saying
the ring
power corrupts, tends to corrupt.
Good.
Absolute power
okay,
corrupts absolutely.
So what is the absolute power there?
Rings promise absolute power.
Yeah, what's the power of the Silmarils?
Yeah, they don't have power. You keep like adding this power to them, but they don't have any power. They're just
the preciousness of them, the use of them for the light, the fact that all of the elves look to them and want to like follow whoever has them. Like that is they are a source of power.
I wonder if that's more has to do with their oath, though. They all took an oath to pursue, like not all of them did. Fingolfin and his crew, or not Fingolfin, Finarfin, I think is the one who turned back and didn't even. He's like, nope, I'm not doing this. There are some of them that did pursue them, but they like kind of made this oath that they would no matter what. And even in his dying breath, Fëanor tells his sons like, avenge me and take back the Silmarils, you know? But I don't
I'd say
know.
probably
You're right. You're right. The allure does corrupt them. The allure does, but that's where the power lies. It's not like the objects themselves contain some kind of power.
I mean,
aside from their beauty.
Yeah, they're not evil. So I want to make that abundantly clear. That the difference between the power that is inherent in the Silmarils versus the Rings of Power is that one was created for evil purposes, the other was not. But Fëanor, like he in of himself, like is driven by pride in a sense, like his ability to affect things, and that's him chasing after the orcs. Like they've already retreated. He's like, right. I can go.
I would say with Fëanor though, it's mostly from within him. Like, let's say hypothetically it was a lesser jewel or just an ordinary jewel, but it was his, and then Morgoth took it. He would still like pursue him to his death, like because it wasn't the object itself. It was just like that burning fire in him. But okay, well, let's table this and let's bring this to Discord. But
people, please comment. Whose side are you on?
Yeah, whose side are you on?
Just not whose side, but
I just want to read
side of the opinion are you on?
Right. The opinion of correctness and light,
and light.
No, I wanted to highlight this thing. It's on the bottom, page 106. This is just the most epic description of the Noldor. Outnumbered and taken at unawares, were yet swiftly victorious. For the light of Aman was not yet dimmed in their eyes, and they were strong and swift and deadly in anger, and their swords were long and terrible.
Yes,
the orcs
that was so
fled
cool.
before them. I love that description. They're just like so intense and so powerful. Even when they're outnumbered and they're caught off guard, they just dominate the orcs. You know.
Yeah, I mean they're not here for a vacation. You know, they're here to fight Morgoth. So they've come to fight. So in one sense, he didn't take them unawares.
Yeah.
And Fëanor, like he's like he is fiery, right? There's something in his name that like alludes to fire. He literally burns up in his death and turns
I love that description.
It's just kind of cool.
When his spirit leaves, his body just immediately turns to ash because it was like the thing holding him together was just pure fire.
Yeah. It's amazing. The one other line, I feel like we should just append this to any sentence, is when Morgoth decides to kind of he tricks them and tells them we're gonna have this embassy and we're gonna surrender. But Morgoth sent the more, and there were Balrogs. Like,
and there were Balrogs.
Nothing more needs to be said. Why use more words than you need to? Tolkien said everything he needed to in like 4 words.
Yeah, and there were Balrogs. In case you didn't get the picture,
it feels like a chess match. Like there's moves happening, but Morgoth seems to be like in a chess match. Fëanor is the aggressive one that's just like bringing his queen out early and like trying to like take people down, and like Morgoth is actually more methodical, and he actually built in defenses knowing that maybe they might come and like chase after me, but then also in his back pocket had the ability to just throw out Balrogs.
Yeah.
So he's really cunning. I think Tolkien did a great job showing that Morgoth isn't just a bumbling megalomaniac, but is really well thought out.
Yeah, he knows tactics and strategy. He probably practiced on chess.com.
Yeah. I wonder how much influence
on chess.com.
Yeah. Both Cameron and I are on chess.com, so if you guys play chess, we'll drop our names in the Discord, join it, and then you can play us. And if you win 3 matches against us,
you get
a
Silmaril.
A Silmaril.
Oh wow.
You get one of the 3 Silmarils.
You get a Matham.
Yeah. I can guarantee a Matham.
One of my Mathams.
Yeah.
Can I share one last random thought?
Yeah.
There's so much more we could talk about this, but it's have you ever heard the description that the words cellar door are the most beautiful words
Yeah,
in the English.
yeah, that's from Donnie
I saw that in
Darko.
Donnie Darko. Yeah, I don't know if real linguists say this, but the English teacher in that movie said this. I think Firth of Drengus might be the ugliest 3 words.
Birth of no. Here's the ugliest 2 words: rural brewery.
Rural brewery. Yeah,
It sounds like that 30 Rock joke.
Sounds like
The
you're
movie,
doing 2 long vowels.
The Rural Juror. That's the.
I hate that word.
Rural's terrible. Yeah. Rural people, though, great. If you're a rural person, we love you.
If
Just
you're a
the word
rural person, we made this for you. Why don't you give us a good rating or something?
Yeah.
All right.
Well-
Do we have anything else to add in here? There are some weird, like, there's lots of like names in this again, which I'm not sure if we've heard of the Ered Wethrin before this chapter. Have we?
Some place names, right? Is that what you're talking about?
As he's dying, he's like looks out from the slopes, and looking out from the slopes of the. I guess he dies on the Ered Wethrin.
Uh-huh.
So not sure where that is. Not sure if we've heard about it.
It must be in the northwest because he sees from it Thangorodrim, which is the peaks above Angband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll have to
help me
look at the
understand
map.
this bit before we, because this will tie into next episode because of the cliffhanger. As Cameron, this is not a joke. It's the reality.
The joke wasn't very good
No, I was not making a joke. Then I was just we're on a cliffhanger.
earlier.
Okay, this is not the joke. This is a serious thing. So in that hour of death, Fëanor and in the hour of death of Fëanor, an assembly came to his sons from Morgoth, and they're offering terms even to the surrender of the Silmaril. Why?
Is your version different from me? Mine has the word embassy.
No, it says embassy.
Oh,
Didn't I just say embassy? What did I say?
assembly. But
Said assembly?
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna. Wait, no. But what was your question? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring.
No,
highlight
embassy.
your.
Thank you. Did I read assembly when I read the book?
Yeah, but you get the same gist.
Yeah.
I'm mind blown by that.
Yeah. Listen back and you'll hear it. Cameron's a good editor, so he'll make it.
I mean, I'm not even dyslexic, so
You'll just hear my voice saying embassy. When we get to that part.
What was your real question?
Yeah, why did they say we'll give you a Silmaril? Like, what was?
Yeah,
why
what's going on here? Just tell me what's going on here.
Well, so what's going on is they want to feign like we surrender, we don't want any more fighting. But what's really happening is we want to get you guys out here so we can assail you with an even bigger force.
Oh, so it's like in chess when you do a queen sacrifice, but really you got to checkmate next move.
Yeah, it's like a queen sacrifice with a discovery check or something.
Okay, yeah, love it.
Wow.
Look at that. Brilliant.
And then
Croissant.
and then Maedhros has a blunder after that.
Yes, he blunders.
Hey, I have a question for you guys. So you know how Morgoth is in a band? Like he's gothic. Do you think Gothmog, Lord of Balrogs, plays bass?
Yes.
Yeah, that just fits, doesn't it?
Yeah. Lord of Balrog.
All right. If you like what you hear, go ahead and rate us 3 Silmarils out of 3. Follow us everywhere at Before the Fellowship and send any comments or questions to beforethefellowship@gmail.com. Watch our YouTube channel because we have Cameron's beautiful face and Greg's also beautiful face. And
Dan is there too.
yeah, but I don't. Yeah, thank you. We also have a Discord channel that you can join, which the link should be updated now. There shouldn't be a problem with it. If there is, it's Greg's fault. That's who you can complain to. He'll give your money back, I promise. And join us next week as we read the greatest story you've never heard, The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien.
What a great cliffhanger.
Now that's what I call cliffhangers.